Bears also catch fish, but as any human angler can tell you, it takes loads of patience and practice. To get enough to eat, grizzly bears need a lot of room to roam. And that's just the problem. There isn't enough space. Listed as a threatened species in the lower 48, they manage to survive in a few wild places, like the Yellowstone ecosystem of the American West, and the Big Sky country of northwest Montana, home to some 600 grizzlies. To protect these bears, we need to find out as much as we can about them. Accurate population counts and further study means entering the bear's domain. In steep, dense forests, that's tricky business for wildlife scientists. Wildlife biologists Rick Mace and John Waller are trying to find out if Montana's bear population has room to grow.
Just everywhere you look, there's just evidence that grizzlies have been in here. You learn to look for little subtle clues that tell you where bears walk. Sometimes just the smell in the air. Sometimes you can smell if a bear's been around or not.
The bears are the ghosts of the woods. They live in very, very remote and impenetrable types of places where seeing them and observing them and counting them is very difficult because they are so secretive.
For 10 years, bears have slowly revealed their secrets to Rick and John. Getting to know individual bears means getting close enough safely to fit them with a radio collar. Capturing hundreds of pounds of lively bear takes serious know-how. Rick and John use fallen branches and debris to create a cubbyhole, which will funnel the bears into the trap. A road-killed deer will be the bait.
You really want to fortify it because the bears are really good at climbing over the top and then getting your bait from the top. If you think about it, their whole life is busting through brush and beating through the woods, and something like this is nothing to them, so you want to make it stout.
There's more than one way to catch a bear, but Rick says the best is to safely snag a grizzly when it puts its best foot forward.
Try them both. Begun to set the snare device, but I want to check it to make sure that it's going to work properly when the bear comes. So what I'm going to do is set it off here before I actually have it concealed with leaves and dust and things. I just want to test it. It's kind of a bad spot, so I want to make sure that it's functional. So what I'll do is I'll just stick my hand in here. It worked. That's how we catch grizzly bears.
They'll keep returning to check their trap. But now, it's time for a road trip. Because grizzly bears roam such huge areas, Rick and John use old logging roads to follow their bears through the wilderness. They've learned to expect the unexpected.
Doesn't look good. Pretty soft, huh? My boot just came off.
It's hard work traipsing around bear country, but persistence pays off. A grizzly bear has walked into one of their traps, and Rick and John return to dart her with a tranquilizer. She may be kind of cranky about the situation, but the dart and a leg hold snare won't hurt her. Once she's sedated, Rick and John quickly attach a radio collar around her neck and set the female free. Data collected this way has resulted in important information on 3 generations of bears.
Well, let's see who's out and about today.
Each radio collar has its own frequency, so individual bears can easily be identified, like a radio station.
We've got a 14-year-old female with a 2-year-old down here. We've had this bear monitored since 1988, and she's one of the bears that we know the best.
more time you spend in the woods, you find out that the places that you like to go are also the same places that grizzly bears like. Grizzly bears need a lot of space. A bear may use just a small area like the size of a playground, and he may spend 3 weeks in an area the size of a playground, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's gone. And he's gone 30 or 40 miles, and then he sits right down again and lives in a place the size of a playground. So as we humans keep intruding further and further into grizzly bear habitat, we're starting to just intrude right into the very heart of the areas that they need to survive.
A few miles away, down in the mountain valley, local folks have completely taken over the bear's turf. Their enthusiasm for these animals is a bit overbearing.
Listen to 106.3 The Bay. Anything else would simply be uncivilized.
The trouble with all this grizzly love is that people want to see the real thing, close up. Sometimes people get so carried away, they forget about the bear's unpredictability and potentially dangerous nature. When bears attack people, it's usually because they feel threatened. Most animals flee humans, but sometimes a bear's protective instinct tells it to fight. The researcher who shot this footage was too close. Luckily, only the camera took a grizzly licking. Usually, encounters between bears and people end before they begin. Check out this grizzly. Suddenly, he hears or smells hikers walking down the trail. He gives it a moment's thought, then takes off. The hikers never know how close they came to a dangerous confrontation. Nearby, Glacier National Park, over 1 million acres of wilderness, the heart of bear country. Here, one determined woman has made living peacefully with bears a top priority.
That's just around the corner here, and then across the street is just on the other side.
Okay.
Sue Olin is a naturalist, beginning her 8th season with the park.
I keep my eyes open, and, you know, there should be some other folks on the trail to be alert.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Good.
Sue leads visitors into the park's backcountry and offers experienced tips about traveling safely in the wilderness.
Well, we're going to head up to Avalanche Day and go look at the gorge. I'm sure all of you know that we have bears in the area here. Chances are we're probably not going to see one today. But it is not impossible, so as we hike along, it's really important for all of us to be alert.
Protection can be as simple as a human voice.
From time to time, you're going to hear me calling out. I'm going to go, yo! It's really good to travel in a group like this. It's a very, very safe way to move through the park here in bear country. By being in a group, we make a certain amount of noise just being together. We also look really impressive, don't you think? We look very impressive. I wouldn't mess with us. All right. When we go out with groups, at the beginning of each hike, we all talk about bears and hiking safely in bear country. We encourage people to be alert, to look around them, to make a lot of racket so that they don't surprise bears.
Sue points out situations that have the potential to become unwanted bear encounters, and she speaks from first-hand experience. Sue herself was attacked by a grizzly last summer while camping in Canada. She was lucky not to be seriously injured.
Let's go here for just a minute. What do you hear? Water. Lots of water, huh? This is a real good time to think about bears.
Rushing water can drown out a hiker's warning shouts. Unless the group is loud enough, a bear near this river might not hear until it's too late, and a confrontation is unavoidable.
Hello! Oh, you guys, you can make more noise now. Let's try that again. Yo! That way. That's more like it. We won't surprise anybody that way.
Bravely, Sue continues her work in the backcountry. Her love of bears outweighs fear. Her commitment to the animals and desire to help visitors understand them keeps bringing her back.
If we can't learn to accommodate these animals, and that means in some cases changing our own behavior, what else can't we learn to accommodate? What else is too difficult for us to live with?
At the Glacier and Yellowstone National Parks, rangers close areas where grizzly bears have been seen feeding. By respecting the bear's space, each year parks can allow thousands of people to enjoy and travel safely through the bear's natural turf. Respect for the grizzly wasn't always the norm. When European settlers began to come to the American West, they encountered grizzly bears. The bear's willingness to stand up to man made them targets. Bears got a reputation as horrible beasts, waiting to turn an intruder into dinner at the drop of a cowboy hat. But the bear was no match for humans, who kept on coming no matter what. Grizzlies were considered pests and destroyed for sport, for trophies, or just because they were in the way. And they soon disappeared from most of the North American continent. But an incident in 1902 changed the way people thought about bears. On a hunting trip out west, President Teddy Roosevelt refused to shoot a young bear that his hunting guide had suggested as a target. An admiring toy maker created the teddy bear in Roosevelt's honor, setting off a craze that continues to this day and encouraging an image of bears as adorable, even cuddly animals. But the country's newfound love wasn't necessarily a good thing for the bears. Instead of providing a refuge, national parks like Yellowstone began to exploit bears for human entertainment. To attract the animals, leftovers were dumped by hotels and campers and quickly scavenged by grizzlies and the smaller black bears. Feeding them was soon a popular outdoor sideshow. These people weren't being nice to the bears, they were teaching them how to beg. This contact was dangerous for people and bears. When park policy finally prohibited such easy pickings, demanding bears became an angry hazard. It took decades to wean the bears away from our diet and back to their own. But bears still have lousy table manners when they get around human food. Tim Manley works for the Montana Department of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. It's his job to teach bears and people to get along, mostly by keeping out of each other's way. One of the tools he uses is a canny canine named Tess. Tess is a Karelian bear dog, bred and trained to chase bears away. If there's a grizzly near this road, Tess will flush it out.